from her, and she'll tell you a little bit more about herself and her books. And afterwards, I forgot the commercial. The way that we keep our gallery going is through income from the B&B and from sales of art, mugs, and books. And there's no cost to the artists and to the writers who we host, and we don't take any percentage of book sales. So please buy their books afterwards. Thank you.
Well, welcome, and I think most of you, a lot of you know Becky, and you really came to hear her. You can hear me too. I chose to live in Williamsburg because my name is Williamson, but
Can you do control?
we retired from Winston-Salem.
Control.
We didn't retire, we downsized. But anyway, I've been writing more or less all of my life.
Can you have me here?
First recognition I can remember was in 7th grade. I wrote a poem, and I got to read it at the spring concert because Lord knows they didn't want me to sing. So I've been, and then, I was on the high school newspaper. I thought about majoring in journalism,
Denise,
but I didn't.
close the
I
door.
majored in science because I also grew up on a farm and with horses, and so I wanted to pursue that. But once I started working, and writing was always a part of my work, and then I became a freelancer for a local newspaper and project books when I was 4-H agent, and then I ended up the editor of a small town paper. And if you've ever heard of the expression, the buck stops here, it definitely stopped right here. It didn't matter if somebody else screwed up the ads or the pictures. I had to write the captions for the pictures before I even saw them. So sometimes things got messed up, but it's on me, and that was okay. But during all that time, I was an avid reader. I started as a child with Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, and then I went to Ian Fleming and, anything I could read, particularly mysteries. And I love mysteries. So throughout my life, I've, voraciously read all kinds of books, but for enjoyment and escapism and whatever, I would read mysteries and thrillers. And it finally got to the point where I read so many, anything that was available, and I saw some of them were so bad, I thought, I think I could do better than this. So I decided to start writing fiction, and I seriously pursued that starting in 2008 when I quit one of my full-time jobs. So I found a publisher and went on from there. But the other thing throughout my life, I've kind of, as I got ready to go to sleep, I would make up stories. Of course, I was always the heroine in these stories, so, I wrote my first mystery, and I found out that dialogue was a little harder than I thought. But then, I don't know if any of you read Clive Cussler Adventures. Clive Cussler's dialogue in the beginning was horrible, and now it's wonderful. Well, he and whoever was writing with him. And I said, oh, well, if he can learn how to do this, I know I can learn how to do this. So I went to lots of workshops and tried to, improve what I did. And then the other thing about my stories is because I'm a horse person, they all have horses in them. They're not necessarily horse stories. None of them are horse stories, per se. It's not Black Beauty, okay. But they all have horses in them because you write what you know. And so that's kind of how I got that. So I have some cozy mysteries, I have some thrillers. And then my publisher said, my daughter's taking riding lessons, and there aren't any serious books for children about horses, like 7- and 8-year-olds. I said, well, I could fix that. So I did, and so I have one children's book. Actually have another written, but I'm not the illustrator, so my illustrator, I can't quite get motivated, so I'm kind of in limbo on that. But I'm going to read you a little bit of this one. My first cozy mystery was my first book, but it wasn't the first one published. I sent it to an agent. I came across a New York agent because in the back of a well-written mystery, this woman talked about her agent who loved horses and dogs and whatever, and I said, oh, okay. So I sent her, I said, so-and-so says you love horses and dogs, so, and she didn't take my book, but she gave me some very good advice. And so I rewrote that one before I submitted it again. And she thought that I knew the woman. I had never claimed that. I just read that from the forward, that she liked horses and dogs, but, she thought I was well acquainted, so you never know what will get you in the door. But this is the first chapter. Madeline, wake up. You've got to get out. Dad, I shouted back. What do you mean? I sat up enough to see the clock. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Madeline Morgan Jones, I'm as serious as I can be. Get out of the house now and don't go near the garage. There's no time. Go. I knew my dad's psychic gifts were very specific and applied only to property, not to people. He had known when the fire started in his office 50 miles away, and then when a row of his rental houses burned. So as weird as it was, I agreed. Okay, I'm going now. Madeline, hurry. I love you. I looked around for my purse, which was hanging on the bedpost, and pulled on the jeans I had left on the floor when I crawled into bed. There was no smell of smoke, no beeping smoke detector. I grabbed shoes and sweatshirt, and as I passed my desk, I thought of my passport and stuffed it in my pocket. I ran down the steps into the great room and out onto the deck, calling for Katie. I had just reached the deck steps when the garage exploded and flames leapt into the air. I dug into my purse for myself. It wasn't there. I had put it on the charger in the kitchen before I went to bed. The kitchen was next to the garage and the immediate path of the flames. Where was Katie? I called, but she was nowhere in sight. My horse was screaming from the barn. Then I heard Katie barking from that direction. Thank God she wasn't in the house. I remembered. Last night she scared up a skunk, and I had washed her and shut her in the stall. Now, if you want to find out what happens, you're going to have to watch it. So, you write what you know. So actually, the part about my father, the fictional woman's father, is true. He did have psychic things only about buildings and fire. It was very strange, but it was true, so I thought, I'll use that. And somebody asked me one time, well, where do you get your characters? Well, everyone you meet, any of you could become a character in one of my books. You never know. But I won't call you by your real name, okay? But anyway, thank you for coming out, and it's been lovely to meet you and see the art. And Denise, very much thank you for the invitation. And if you have any questions before Becky starts, I feel happy to answer them. No? Okay.
Hi.
Go ahead and take your picture and then I'll catch you.
Oh, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Tell me about your B&B.